What's up, YouTube? It's Scotty with Evil Castrigal. We are back again today with another ride video, or should I say drive video, because today we are taking out something a little different. We are taking out this gray Slingshot SL behind me to talk about what I think about slingshots. You know, I know it's not really a motorcycle. You don't need a motorcycle license to operate one of these, at least not in the state of Indiana. Might be different where you're from, but a little bit different, kind of a convertible sports car, right? A little different for the channel. Mostly we do everything two wheels, but I had the opportunity to drive one today, so I figured I would talk about it, because a lot of people that don't ride motorcycles, or maybe are afraid to ride a motorcycle, end up on a Slingshot. I would compare it more to a convertible car, though, and we'll get into that in the video about what I think cost plus, drivability and how it drives, basically how it feels. We'll get into that when we get out on the road. We are in the automatic today. This is not an automatic, it's called an auto drive. So it feels more like a manual, the way it shifts. It's supposed to give you the feeling of driving a manual, even though you are not shifting it yourself. And this model right here behind me is going to run $29,349 MSRP. Let's get behind the wheel and I'll tell you what I think about this thing. Woo! All right, we're buckling up here. Weird that the seatbelt is on the right side of the vehicle, but that's where it is. If you get into a cockpit of one of these things and you're wondering, clicker and drive right down here, and you're off. I gotta say, this thing sounds pretty good. So I have already did a little lap here on this is kind of our standard loop that we drive or ride when we're demoing Indian motorcycles from the dealership here, Indian Clarksville, or CC Power Sports Clarksville. But today we're in a Slingshot. And yeah, this is something different for the channel. You know, Evil Castrigal really is, at its core, a two-wheeled enthusiast channel, right? Whether it's mountain bikes or dirt bikes, street bikes, you name it, trail bikes. You know, we are a two-wheeled channel, right? But today we're in something with three wheels. I had the opportunity to drive one of these at work, and I figured I'll share my thoughts on the Slingshot with the channel as well, because people we get a lot of people in the dealerships that are interested in these things. We saw a lot of them. They are a popular vehicle, and I have always honestly been kind of a skeptic of the Slingshot. I grew up around convertible sports cars, so to me it's always been like, yeah, I would just rather get like a Miata or an old MG or something like that. Having not really driven these much, except for like around the block. And what I will say after now having driven it just on this little loop here and in some of these little twisties, if you can even call this a twisty section, it's really not, but it's as much twisty as it gets in Clarksville. The car has an appeal to it. I have to say, you feel a little more connected to the road in a Slingshot because you are out in the elements. And I keep calling it a car. I think to me, it's a car. You sit in it, you drive it, it's got a steering wheel. You don't need a motorcycle license to operate this thing, at least not in the state of Indiana. I don't know, I can't speak for these other states that you guys are watching this in, but in Indiana, you don't need a motorcycle license to operate this thing. But you're out in the elements. You are a little more out in the elements, even more so than like if you're driving, a Miata or something like that. And that's really what I want to compare this to in terms of spec and price. So this car, the Slingshot SL with the auto drive system, this is not a manual. Bummer, I know. I would have preferred to be in a manual as well, but the auto drive is the more popular option right now. This car is going to run $29,349 MSRP. So, you're about $5,000, I believe, less than like a Mazda Miata. And what you're getting is, you are losing a back wheel, but you are getting 204 horsepower out of the engine in this thing, and it only weighs like 1,749 pounds. So you're gaining about 20-ish horsepower, maybe just north of 20, over the Miata. And you're also losing about 700 pounds, I believe. I think the Miata is going to run about 2,400 pounds, so at least in stock trim. So, power to weight ratio, this thing has it beat. And as far as like cornering agility, I think it feels pretty good. Now, I haven't pushed this thing hard on a track, so I can't speak to how stable the rear end is. I will say, if you punch it pretty hard, you will break the back tire loose, so you do have to be careful with that. Of course, you know, you're going to have you are going to have, I think, some ride modes and stuff like that with this thing. I haven't really explored too much of the options here. I probably should have done that for the video, but you do have phone connectivity and music, and you can even upgrade to navigation. Some of these do come with navigation already in them, but I mean, you know, it's got really nice steering wheel control. It's got cruise control. We'll see how that works up on the freeway here. How about that? I didn't use that on the way here. But really fun so far. So the way the auto drive system works, it's interesting. It's they say it's supposed to mimic a manual transmission. So the first time I drove one of these with the auto drive, I was like, man, it's weird. It's like the shifts kind of like lag a little bit in between gears, but they actually designed that on purpose to feel like you are driving a manual transmission. So the kind of normal lag you would get as you engage the clutch, slot it into gear and release and back on the gas, that feeling you would get when you're driving a manual, you feel that when you're driving the auto drive system in this Polaris Slingshot. So it's a little interesting to get used to if you get into it and you think it's going to feel like a regular automatic transmission, where it just kind of just naturally clicks into gears and you really don't feel it engage too much. You do feel it, you feel the gears in this thing. So once you get used to that, you're like, you kind of get what it's doing, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. But you do have to keep that in mind. Now here we go. We're going to set it. We're going to set the cruise at 69 miles per hour, and we're just cruising down the highway. It's nice. You do feel a little more. I will say this is where a little bit of that, and I say this very loosely, motorcycle feel comes in. I'm very loosely saying this. This is very much a car, not a motorcycle. But you are way out in the elements in this thing. It's just got this kind of short windscreen here that just kind of shoots the wind over you. I've got a little buffeting actually right here. So you are more out in the elements on this thing. So that's cool. And I think that people that are used to just coming from the car world, they might enjoy this. They might feel a little more raw. And I say that because you do feel more connected to the road in this thing. It's very responsive feeling. The suspension's very responsive. It's not floating over bumps like you're in a sedan, or even modern sports cars tend to be a little more comfort forward rather than like race spec feel. Where this thing does feel a little more race spec. It's a little more aggressive feeling on the road, just stance wise, and the steering is very responsive. So pretty fun to drive. I have to say, coming into this as a skeptic on the Slingshot, and I still, don't think it's necessarily a vehicle that I'm putting in the Evil Castrigal garage anytime soon. I think it is very fun, and I think I understand the purpose for this thing more now, having driven it, than I did going into this video. So, hey, you learn something new every day, right? Anyway, this has been Scotty with Evil Castrigal. We're in the cockpit of a car today. Not really a normal video for us here at the channel, but fun nonetheless. Color me surprised. I enjoyed driving the Slingshot today. If you're interested in the Slingshot, hit up my buddies at work, right? But my buddies over at CC Powersports Clarksville, their number is 812-948-1621. They can hook you up with a Slingshot, man, or a motorcycle or whatever. We sell everything there. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We're getting close to that 1,000 subscriber mark. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy this content at all, if you thought, I'll give the guy a handout, whatever. Give me a handout, man. Come on. I need the likes. I need the subscribes. So I get some of that ad revenue, a little bit of that sliver, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'll check you later, guys. Thanks for watching.